I've always had this impulsive way of reacting to things, that stubborn instinct that makes me speak before I think, act before I breathe. It's not pride exactly. It's more like this restless energy inside me that refuses to be still when I see something unfair. That's what I told myself, at least. It was a Saturday afternoon, one of those ordinary days when you don't expect anything to happen. The sun was merciless outside, and the lottery office was packed. The air smelled of cheap perfume and impatience. I had already been in line for 15 minutes, holding my betting slip, when he walked in. That man. He wasn't old, not even close. Mid-50s, maybe. Still strong, standing straight, moving quickly. Yet, without hesitation, he went straight to the preferential line, the one reserved for pregnant women, the elderly, and people with disabilities. I stared at him, waiting for someone to say something. No one did. People just watched silently, pretending not to care, the way people often do when they don't want trouble. But silence is something I've never been good at. "Hey, brother," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "The end of the line is back there." He turned slightly, just enough to glance at me, a blank, almost mocking look, and then turned back to the counter as if I were invisible. That did it. My temper snapped like a rubber band. "So you're not only cutting the line," I said louder, "but also pretending to be deaf?" The place went quiet. I could feel the tension buzzing in the air, and then, from behind me, came a calm but firm female voice. "Don't talk to him like that. Can't you see he's over 60? I turned around, ready to fight the world, and that's when I saw her. She was standing just a few steps behind me, this woman with intense eyes and a voice that carried both fire and grace. Her expression was stern, like she was scolding a child. I remember thinking she looked too young to be defending strangers in lottery lines. 60? I said, half laughing. "That man doesn't even look 50. Look at him. He's healthier than me." Her brows furrowed, and before I knew it, we were arguing in front of everyone. Voices rising, words overlapping, the crowd staring like it was some kind of free show. The man who caused all of this just stood there, calm as ever, collecting his ticket like a saint surrounded by sinners. It was chaos. And yet, even in that heated moment, something strange happened. I noticed her eyes. Brown, maybe, or hazel. Hard to tell under the harsh fluorescent lights. But there was something alive in them, something that made me feel more unsettled than the argument itself. Still, pride is a terrible master. I couldn't back down, not after being called rude in public. "You don't even know me," I told her. "You're defending someone who doesn't need defending. You should mind your own business." Her answer came fast, sharp as glass. "Someone has to remind you what respect looks like." That one hit me. I froze, searching for something to say, but the words didn't come. She turned her face away, refusing to look at me again. And when I finally reached the counter, my anger had already turned into something else. Shame, maybe, or confusion. I finished my bet, walked out, and spent the rest of the day thinking about her voice echoing in my head. Someone has to remind you what respect looks like. It wasn't the kind of phrase that left easily. That night, I replayed the whole scene like a movie on repeat. The crowded room, the man pretending not to hear me, and her standing there, fierce and beautiful in her conviction. I told myself she was just another stranger, that I'd never see her again, that it didn't matter, but my mind betrayed me. On Monday, during lunch at work, I told my coworker Gil about the scene. He laughed as I acted it out, my bad temper, her attitude, the absurdity of it all. When I finished, he leaned back, smirking like he knew something I didn't. "Wait," he said. "When did this happen?" "Saturday," I replied. "The lottery downtown, by the bakery." He started laughing so hard he almost choked. "What?" I asked, confused. "I can't believe this," he said between laughs. "You fought with my sister." I blinked, not sure I'd heard him right. "Your sister?" "Yeah, Juliana. She came home that same night telling us the exact same story. Except in her version, you were some angry guy yelling at an old man. She even called you the caveman. The room spun for a second. My stomach dropped. I laughed, but it was that nervous kind of laugh you use when you don't know what else to do. You're joking. I'm not. She described you perfectly. Even mentioned the way you raised your eyebrows when you said, 60? Where? And that's when it hit me. She remembered me too. The shame came flooding back, along with something else I couldn't quite name. Maybe curiosity, maybe guilt, maybe both. All I knew was that, against all reason, the memory of that argument, of her eyes, her voice, her stubborn courage, wouldn't leave me. I'd made a fool of myself that day. But what I didn't know then, standing there in that noisy, sunlit lottery office, was that the woman who'd just humiliated me in front of strangers would soon be the only person capable of silencing me completely. And for the first time in a long while, I found myself hoping I'd get the chance to see her again, even if it meant arguing all over again. I didn't expect to see her again. I told myself that what happened at the lottery office was just one of those random, humiliating scenes that life throws at you from time to time. You explode, you regret it, and then you move on. Or at least, that's what I kept repeating to myself, like a prayer to forget. But some people you can't forget, even if you met them in the worst possible way. That Monday, after Gil told me the woman I had argued with was his sister, I just sat there, dumbfounded, trying to laugh it off. He, of course, couldn't stop laughing. "Man, you should have seen her face when she told us the story," he said, shaking his head. "She came home furious, said you looked like some wild guy yelling at everyone. She even called you the caveman." "The caveman?" I repeated, half laughing, half dying inside. "Yeah," he said, still smiling. "Said you were rude, impulsive, and... Oh, what was it? Oh, right. A walking lesson in how not to behave in public." He laughed so hard I couldn't help but join in, but deep down, I was mortified. Of all the people in this city, I had to argue with my best friend's sister. "What are the chances?" I said, rubbing my temples. "Pretty low," Gil replied, still amused. "But hey, maybe it's a sign. Life's got a weird sense of humor." I tried to play it cool, pretending I didn't care. But inside, I was replaying every word I'd said to her, every gesture, every stupid line. The way her voice trembled with anger, the way her eyes locked on mine, fearless and bright, the way she turned away, leaving me speechless in front of a room full of strangers. "Anyway," Gil said, leaning back in his chair, "I'd apologize if I were you. She's got a good memory. You might want to fix your reputation before the next family barbecue." "Don't worry," I said, forcing a laugh. "I'll stay far away from both of you." But I couldn't. Something about the whole thing stayed under my skin. It wasn't just embarrassment, it was intrigue. There was something magnetic about her, something raw and real. She'd stood up for someone she didn't even know. And even though she made me look like a fool, I couldn't help but respect that. For the rest of the week, I found myself thinking about her at random times, while making coffee, while driving to work, even while waiting at the red light near that same lottery office. I kept wondering what she must have thought afterward. Did she laugh about it? Did she still think of me as that caveman? Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But one thing was certain, I wanted to see her again. By Thursday, Gil had already moved on from the joke, but I hadn't. He was the kind of guy who never stayed serious for more than 2 minutes, but that day, as we sat in the break room, I finally asked the question I'd been trying not to ask. "So, your sister," I began, pretending to sound casual. "She lives around here?" He looked up, raising an eyebrow. "Why?" "No reason. Just curious." He smirked. "Don't tell me you're interested, man. You, after all that drama?" "Of course not," I lied. "I'm just, you know," He didn't buy it. Well, good luck with that curiosity. She's not the type to forgive easily, especially after being yelled at in public. I didn't argue. He was right. Still, something inside me whispered that maybe, just maybe, life wasn't done with this little accident of fate. And then Friday came. It was almost the end of the day when Gil leaned over my desk with that mischievous grin of his. "Hey, you ever been to the Grape Festival?" "The what?" "The Grape Festival. Happens every year. Live music, good food, wine everywhere. It's this weekend in Santa Helena. You should come." I shrugged. "I don't know, man. Not really my scene." "Oh, come on. It'll be fun. We'll get off work, head straight there, and forget all about deadlines and idiots cutting in line." I laughed at that. Maybe a night out would do me good. "All right," I said. "I'm in." What I didn't know, what Gil conveniently forgot to mention, was that his sister would be there too. When Friday finally rolled around, we clocked out, grabbed a quick bite, and drove to the festival. The night was warm, filled with laughter, music, and the smell of roasted corn and wine. The place was alive, couples dancing, children running, people singing along to old songs they half remembered. I was in the middle of the crowd when I saw her, Juliana. She was walking toward us with two friends, laughing about something. For a moment, the noise around me faded. My chest tightened. Gil followed my gaze and grinned like the devil himself. "Oh, look who's here," he said. "The caveman and the defender of justice, reunited at last." I froze. "You didn't tell me she'd be here," he shrugged. "Didn't think I needed to." As she got closer, our eyes met. I felt the same spark of tension from that day in the lottery office, but this time there was no anger, just surprise and maybe a bit of amusement. Gil, of course, was enjoying every second. "Juliana," he said, pretending to sound formal. "Meet Ricardo, the man, the myth, the legend." She laughed softly. "Oh, I remember him." My heart skipped. Her voice, calm, playful, and still carrying that quiet strength, hit me harder than I expected. I tried to speak, but all that came out was, "Hi." "Hi," she replied, smiling faintly. And just like that, the walls I'd built around my embarrassment began to crumble. Maybe Gil was right. Maybe life really did have a strange sense of humor. Because there I was, standing in the middle of a crowded festival, face to face with the woman who once called me a caveman, realizing that I'd never wanted so badly for someone to see me differently. The night at the festival felt alive, the kind of night that hums beneath your skin. You can feel it in the air, in the laughter spilling from every corner, in the scent of grilled food and sweet wine drifting through the crowd. It wasn't just a festival. It was a celebration of everything messy and human, joy, chaos, noise, and the small chance that maybe, just maybe, something unexpected could happen. I didn't go there expecting anything. I told myself I was just tagging along with Gil, enjoying a bit of food and music after a long week. But deep down, I think part of me was hoping, even if I didn't want to admit it, that fate might have a strange encore planned. And sure enough, it did. We were walking through the crowd when Gil suddenly slowed down, grinning like a man who knew something I didn't. I followed his gaze and froze. She was there. Juliana. She was walking toward us with two friends, a plastic cup of wine in her hand, laughing about something I couldn't hear. Her laughter cut through the noise, soft, warm, unguarded. For a moment, it was like the entire festival faded away, and all I could see was her. "Hey," Gil said, nudging me. "You remember my sister, right?" I glared at him, realizing too late what he had done. "You could have warned me," I muttered. "Where's the fun in that?" he whispered, already stepping forward to greet her. Juliana's eyes met mine before I could even think of turning away. There was a flicker of recognition there, and something else. Maybe curiosity, maybe mischief. "Juliana," Gil said, with the smugness of a man enjoying a private joke. "You remember Ricardo, don't you? The lottery line avenger?" Her lips curved into a smile that could melt concrete. "Oh, I remember," she said. "Hard to forget the man who nearly started a riot over a lottery ticket." The way she said it, teasing, not angry, loosened something in me. I laughed, rubbing the back of my neck. "Yeah, not my proudest moment." Her friends glanced between us, clearly entertained. "So this is the infamous caveman?" one of them asked, giggling. "Apparently," I said, trying to sound casual, though my heart was pounding like it wanted out of my chest. Gil quickly turned the moment into a group invitation. "Come on, let's grab some drinks. You ladies can join us." And just like that, I found myself walking beside Juliana, surrounded by the hum of music and laughter. It was awkward at first, two people who had once thrown words like knives now pretending to be civilized. But after a while, the tension began to ease. We found a table near the stage. A local band was playing old rock songs, the kind that make you tap your foot without realizing it. The wine was cheap, but sweet, and the air felt softer as the night grew darker. Juliana sat across from me, her face glowing in the dim yellow light of the street lamps. Every so often our eyes would meet, brief glances that said more than either of us dared to speak. "You know," I said finally, leaning forward a little, "I owe you an apology." She tilted her head, intrigued. "For what?" "For being an idiot that day." A small laugh escaped her. "You're not the only one who said things they didn't mean. I was probably too harsh." I smiled. "Maybe, but you were right. I acted like a caveman." She laughed again, shaking her head. "You're never going to let that go, are you? Not when it comes from you." Something changed in her expression then, a subtle softening, like a wall slowly lowering. We both looked away, letting the silence speak for us. Gil was already talking animatedly with her friends, leaving the two of us in our own little bubble. Around us, the festival pulsed with life, the clinking of glasses, the murmur of hundreds of voices, the music rising and falling like waves. For the first time since that disastrous day, I felt at peace. As the night went on, the conversation between us grew easier. We talked about little things, work, family, the strange beauty of coincidences. She told me about her love for live music and how she often came to the festival every year. I confessed I'd never been before. "Then it's a good thing you came tonight," she said, smiling. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It really is." When the band started playing a slower song, the kind people dance to without realizing they've started, something unspoken passed between us. Our hands brushed on the table, just an accident maybe, but it sent a jolt through me. She didn't pull away, and neither did I. The air between us felt different now, lighter, but full of something I couldn't name, something both dangerous and familiar. As the festival began to wind down, Gil suggested we all head to another booth for dessert. Juliana and I walked a little behind the group side by side, neither of us speaking for a while. "You really changed my opinion," I said after a pause. "When I first saw you, I thought you were just someone who liked to argue." "Oh, I still like to argue," she said playfully. "I just pick better topics now." I laughed, and for the first time that night, she laughed with me. Not out of politeness, but for real. It was the kind of laugh that fills the space between two people and makes it hard to imagine they were ever strangers. When it was finally time to leave, she turned to me, her eyes soft but guarded. "Well, Ricardo, I guess we survived our second meeting without a public fight. That's progress." "I'll take that as a win," I said. We said goodbye, but as I watched her walk away through the crowd, her figure blending into the warm glow of the festival lights, I realized something had shifted inside me. The woman who once called me a caveman had just walked straight into my thoughts, and she wasn't leaving anytime soon. Maybe the universe really does have a twisted sense of humor. Or maybe it simply knew what I didn't yet. That sometimes the person you argue with is the same person destiny plans to make you fall in love with. It's strange how quickly embarrassment can turn into affection. One week you're shouting at someone in a crowded lottery office, and the next you're trying to memorize the way her laugh curls through the night. After the festival, I couldn't stop thinking about Juliana. It wasn't just her face, though that alone was enough to haunt me. It was the way she looked at me when she smiled, as if she already knew I was lost and was too kind to mention it. There was something disarming about her calmness, the way she carried herself. She was sharp but gentle, playful but grounded. And somehow, I'd gone from wanting to never see her again to hoping fate would let me bump into her one more time. But fate had already done enough. It was my turn to move. Monday came, and I tried to play it cool around Gil, pretending I hadn't spent half the weekend replaying the festival in my head. He, of course, saw right through me. "Don't even try," he said, grinning as we sat down for lunch. "You've got that look." "What look?" I asked, pretending to focus on my food. "The look of a guy who got hit by something heavier than a hangover." I rolled my eyes. "You're imagining things." "Sure," he said, leaning back. "Imagining my sister's face lighting up when she saw you again? Yeah, must have been a dream." I tried not to react, but I felt it, that small, ridiculous spark of hope. "She said that?" "Relax, Romeo. I didn't say she wrote your name in the stars. But yeah, she mentioned you, said you were different from what she expected. More human, I guess." I laughed, shaking my head. "That's comforting," he smirked. "Hey, that's progress. You went from the caveman to human. Next stop, Prince Charming." We both laughed, but something about his words stayed with me. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to start over, without the shouting, without the pride. Just two people who happened to collide at the wrong moment, trying again at the right one. By Friday, I'd made up my mind. I was going to apologize properly, not through half smiles or awkward jokes, but with sincerity. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Gil invited a small group of co-workers, and of course Juliana joined them. It was a casual night out, music, laughter, cheap drinks. But my heart was pounding as soon as I saw her. She looked effortless, in that way some women do without trying. Hair down, eyes shining in the dim light, a calm smile that told me she was comfortable here, in her element. I felt like the intruder, the man who still had something to fix. We were all standing in a circle talking when I finally gathered the courage to walk up to her. "Hey," I said softly. She turned, and that same half-smile appeared, the one that could undo me without warning. "Hey, caveman," I laughed. "You're never letting that go, are you?" "Not unless you give me a good reason to," she said, teasing, but not cruel. "Well, maybe this will count," I said, taking a small breath. I wanted to say I'm sorry for that day, for losing my temper, for yelling, for everything, really. Her expression softened, and for a moment, the noise around us faded. She didn't answer right away, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. The careful way she weighed words before letting them go. "Thank you," she finally said. "And I'm sorry too. I shouldn't have jumped in the way I did. I just hate seeing people being rude, even when I don't know the whole story." I smiled. "Then we're both guilty. I guess we just picked the wrong battlefield." "Exactly," she said, her voice lighter now. "Next time, maybe we can pick a coffee shop instead of a lottery line." Deal. The tension dissolved into something easier, something warmer. We started talking, really talking, for the first time. About work, about music, about how ridiculous that argument had been. She had this quiet humor that caught me off guard, and the more we spoke, the more I realized how wrong my first impression had been. There was no arrogance in her, no stubbornness, just honesty. She was the kind of person who felt deeply but spoke carefully, like every word mattered. At one point, Gil came over, pretending to check in, but I could see the grin he was trying to hide. "So," he said, looking between us, "you two finally made peace?" Juliana glanced at me, her lips curving into that small smile again. "We did." Gil chuckled. "Good. Maybe now he can stop talking about it." "Gil," I warned, but it was too late. Juliana laughed, that melodic, unguarded laugh that made everyone around her smile too. "Don't worry," she said, her tone softening. "I kind of like knowing I left an impression." "You definitely did," I admitted, before I could stop myself. Her eyes lingered on mine for a moment longer than necessary, and something unspoken passed between us. A pause, a spark, a quiet understanding that maybe this wasn't just coincidence anymore. The night went on, filled with music and easy conversation, but I barely noticed anything else. Every word from her, every glance felt like a second chance, a slow undoing of the mistake that had started it all. When we finally said goodbye, I walked her to her car. We stood there for a moment, the city lights painting the night gold and soft. "It's funny," she said, looking up at me. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again." "Yeah," I said quietly, "but I'm glad I did." "Me too." And there it was again, that small smile, simple, sincere, the kind of smile that says more than words ever could. When she drove away, I stood there for a long time, watching the red glow of her taillights fade into the distance. My heart felt lighter, steadier, like something inside me had just clicked into place. Apologies had turned into understanding, anger into curiosity, and curiosity into something dangerously close to longing. I didn't know it yet, but that night marked the real beginning, not of a story about mistakes and pride, but one about how two stubborn hearts, after fighting so hard to be right, finally learned how to meet in the middle. I kept her number for 5 days before doing anything about it. 5 long, ridiculous, nerve-wracking days. Gil had given it to me after a long conversation that started as teasing and ended in surrender. I had asked him for it like a guilty teenager, trying to sound casual. You know, just in case. But Gil wasn't stupid. "Just in case what?" he said, smirking. "You already apologized. What else do you need?" I hesitated. "Maybe I want to talk to her again." He laughed. "Talk? That's what we're calling it now?" I rolled my eyes. "Forget it." But he didn't. A few minutes later, he handed me a small piece of paper with her number scribbled in his sloppy handwriting. "There," he said. "Just don't make me regret this." And then came the hard part, staring at those digits like they were a detonator. I must have memorized them by accident. They looped in my head day and night. Every time I looked at my phone, my thumb would hover over the dial button, but I'd freeze. What if she didn't want to hear from me? What if she picked up and said, "Oh, it's you"? What if she didn't remember me at all? There's a strange kind of fear that comes after an unexpected connection. Not the fear of rejection, but the fear of ruining something before it even begins. Each night that week, I came home from work, poured myself a drink, and told myself, tomorrow I'll call her. But tomorrow kept becoming the next day, and the next, until Saturday came. By then, even Gil had noticed. "You're still overthinking this?" he asked, half amused, half exasperated. "You fought with her, made peace, shared wine. What's left to be scared of?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe everything." He shook his head. "You're hopeless. Just call her, man. What's the worst that could happen?" The worst? She could hang up, laugh, say no, or worse, she could be indifferent. But that night, I decided I was done being a coward. The house was quiet, and I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, staring at her number glowing on the screen. I took a deep breath, then another. My heart was pounding like I was about to do something dangerous. Then I pressed call. Hello? Her voice. God, I'd forgotten how soft it was. Clear, calm, like a melody I didn't realize I'd memorized. Hi, I said quickly before I lost my nerve. It's Ricardo. A pause, then a spark of recognition. Ricardo? Yeah, Ricardo, Gil's friend, the guy from the lottery line. And then came that laugh, light, musical, the same one that had been haunting me since the festival. Oh, that Ricardo, she said. How could I forget? My heart unclenched a little. I hope that's a good thing. Well, she said playfully, depends on what you're calling for. Her tone wasn't cold, it was teasing, and that was all the encouragement I needed. I wanted to see how you were doing, I said, and maybe ask if you'd like to go out one night. There was silence on the other end, not heavy or awkward, but thoughtful. I could hear her breathing softly, probably weighing her options. She said finally. You know, I already have plans tonight. Oh, I said, trying to sound casual but feeling that familiar sting of disappointment. But, she added, and my heart jumped. Depending on the invitation, I might change them. That but felt like a door unlocking. I smiled. I was thinking something simple, maybe a bar with live music, somewhere quiet enough to talk. I like that, she said. Actually, I know a perfect place. And just like that, we had a plan. After hanging up, I sat there for a long moment, staring at my phone in disbelief. I'd actually done it. I'd called her, and she'd said yes. I don't remember much of what I did after that, only that I cleaned my apartment for no reason, changed my shirt 3 times, and checked the clock every 5 minutes. By the time I drove to her house that evening, my palms were sweating like I was about to give a speech instead of picking up a girl. When she walked out the door, time stopped. She wasn't overdressed. A simple blouse, her hair tied loosely, a faint touch of makeup. But she looked radiant, not like someone trying to impress, but like someone who didn't need to. Her presence filled the space before she even reached me. Hi, she said, smiling. Wow, I said before I could stop myself. You look... Don't say beautiful, she interrupted, laughing. That's too predictable. I grinned. Then I'll say unforgettable. She rolled her eyes but smiled anyway. Smooth recovery. The drive to the bar was quiet but comfortable. The tension that had once existed between us was gone, replaced by something gentler, more uncertain. Every now and then I'd glance at her, trying not to be obvious, and catch her doing the same. When we arrived, a band was playing softly, guitar, piano, low voices melting into the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. We found a small table in the corner. For the first few minutes, we just talked. About work, family, music, the strange coincidence that brought us together. Every time she laughed, I felt that invisible thread between us pull tighter. At one point, she looked at me and said, "You know, you're nothing like I imagined you'd be." Good or bad? I asked. She smiled. Definitely better. Something in me loosened then. The fear, the hesitation, all of it. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Later, as the night deepened and the music grew slower, I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized that dialing her number hadn't just been a phone call. It had been a turning point. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't finding the right person. It's finding the courage to reach for them. And that night, when Juliana's laughter mingled with the sound of live music and my own racing heartbeat, I knew I'd done the right thing. I dialed the number, and somehow also dialed fate. There are moments that don't feel real until much later. Moments that hang in the air like the last note of a song you don't want to end. That night at the music bar was one of them. I arrived early, too nervous to admit it. I sat in the car for a few minutes, pretending to check my phone, my reflection staring back from the dark windshield. I told myself to calm down, that it was just a night out. But it didn't feel like just a night. It felt like something beginning, something fragile and rare that I didn't want to ruin. When Juliana finally walked out of her house, I swear time forgot to move. She wasn't wearing anything extravagant, a pale blue blouse, hair pulled back loosely, simple gold earrings. But there was something about her. The way she carried herself, the quiet confidence, the calm that seemed to follow her everywhere. "Hi," she said, smiling, leaning slightly toward the car window. I froze for a second, caught between awe and relief. "Hi," I finally managed. "You look incredible." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You always say the wrong thing, the right way." "Occupational hazard," I said, opening the door for her. "Shall we?" The drive was short, but filled with that delicate tension that lives between two people who haven't yet figured out what they mean to each other. The streetlights flickered over her face, painting her in soft golds and shadows. I wanted to say something, anything, but I was afraid words would ruin the quiet magic that had settled between us. When we arrived, the music had already started. The place was small, cozy, and a little old-fashioned. The kind of bar that smelled faintly of wood and wine, where the lights were dim and the sound was warm. A local band played slow jazz in the corner, the singer's voice floating through the room like smoke. "This is perfect," she said, glancing around. "Good choice," I replied. "See? I told you I knew a place," she teased. We found a small table near the stage. The waiter brought 2 glasses of wine, and we sat in that comfortable, charged silence that only exists when something real is about to begin. She was even more beautiful under that soft light. Her eyes caught the amber glow of the candles. Her fingers traced absent circles on the rim of her glass. And every now and then, she'd look up and smile. Small, quiet smiles that said more than 1,000 words. "So," she said after a while, tilting her head, "are you always this quiet, or is it just nerves?" "Maybe a little of both," I admitted. "I'm trying not to say anything stupid." She grinned. "That's a good start." We talked for a while, about music, about childhood dreams, about all the small, ordinary things that somehow didn't feel ordinary with her. She told me she loved places like this because they felt alive, honest. "Everyone comes here for something different," she said. "Some come to remember, others to forget." "And you?" I asked. She thought for a moment. "I come to feel." That line stayed with me long after she said it. As the band shifted to a softer melody, she closed her eyes for a moment, swaying slightly with the rhythm. There was no performance in her, no pretense, just presence. She felt everything deeply, and that made her mesmerizing. At one point, I realized I hadn't heard a word of the song. I was too focused on her. The way the candlelight touched her hair, the curve of her lips when she smiled. I tried to look away, but I couldn't. When she caught me staring, she laughed softly. "You're staring," she said. "Guilty," I admitted. "But I'm afraid to look away. I might miss something." She blushed slightly and took a sip of wine. "You know," she said, "for a guy who yelled in a lottery line, you're surprisingly charming." "Character development," I said, smiling. She laughed, that unguarded, melodic laugh that felt like the universe pressing repeat on my heart. Then came a moment, the kind that happens without planning. We were both quiet, the music low, the world fading into background noise. I don't know what pushed me. Maybe the wine, maybe the way she looked at me then, like she was seeing through every layer of pretense I'd ever built. My hand moved across the table, almost of its own accord, until my fingers brushed hers. She didn't pull away. For a heartbeat, neither of us breathed. Then she turned her hand, letting our palms meet, her skin warm against mine. It was such a small gesture, simple, almost innocent, but it carried the weight of something enormous. The space between us collapsed into quiet understanding. The band kept playing, the world kept spinning, but none of it mattered anymore. There was only her. She smiled softly, eyes glinting in the candlelight. "You're full of surprises, Ricardo." I laughed quietly, not trusting my voice. "So are you." We sat like that for what felt like forever, two people suspended in a moment neither of us wanted to end. The noise around us faded to a blur of sound and color. I could have sworn the air itself changed, thickened, became something that belonged only to us. And then, without words, without plans, it happened. I don't remember who leaned in first. Maybe it was her, maybe it was me. All I know is that the distance between us disappeared. The first touch of her lips was soft, tentative, a question more than an answer. But when she kissed me back, slow, deliberate, the question became certainty. The room seemed to vanish. There was no music, no clinking glasses, no laughter from other tables, just her heartbeat, close to mine. When we finally pulled away, she laughed quietly, almost in disbelief. I didn't expect that. "Neither did I said, breathless. "Guess life has a sense of humor after all," she whispered. We stayed there, hands still entwined, sharing a silence that felt sacred. That night at the music bar didn't end with promises or declarations. It didn't need to. It was enough that two people, once strangers bound by pride and accident, had found something rare, something that felt like destiny disguised as coincidence. As I drove her home later, she rested her head against the window, smiling softly to herself. And I realized that sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it begins quietly, with a laugh, a touch, and a song that you'll never forget. It's strange how one single moment can rewrite everything that came before it. All the anger, the misunderstandings, the pride, gone, like chalk washed away by rain. That night, in the dim light of the music bar, with her hand in mine and her lips against mine, the past simply stopped mattering. When we finally pulled apart, the world seemed unreal. The noise around us returned slowly. The laughter of strangers, the clink of glasses, the soft hum of the band. But none of it felt quite real anymore. It was as if we'd stepped out of time for a few seconds, just long enough to feel what it's like when two hearts finally agree on something. She looked at me then, her eyes glowing with that mix of surprise and calm. The kind of look that says, "I didn't plan this either, but I don't regret it." I smiled, trying to keep my voice steady. "For a second there, I thought you were going to slap me." Juliana laughed softly, shaking her head. "If you had tried that a week ago, I probably would have." "Yeah," I said, grinning. "Timing is everything." She looked down, playing with the rim of her glass. "You're right," she whispered. "It really is." We didn't say much after that. There was nothing to explain, nothing to define. The silence between us wasn't awkward anymore. It was full, alive, the kind of silence that speaks louder than words. Outside, the night was cool and the city quiet. I offered her my jacket as we stepped out of the bar, and for a moment I watched her watching the sky, like she was trying to memorize that exact slice of time. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "What is?" "The night, the music, everything." She paused, smiling faintly. "Even you." I laughed quietly, but my chest tightened. No one had ever said something like that to me so simply, so effortlessly. It didn't sound like flattery. It sounded like truth. We walked to the car slowly, our steps falling into rhythm. The streetlights painted golden halos on the pavement. Somewhere in the distance, a street musician was playing a guitar, the melody drifting through the air like a continuation of the night we'd just shared. When we reached the car, neither of us seemed ready to say goodbye. "Do you want to take a drive?" I asked. half hoping, half afraid. She nodded. As long as it's not too far. We drove aimlessly through quiet streets, windows down, the cool wind tangling her hair. There was no destination, no map, just the feeling of something new unfolding. Every time I looked at her, the city lights reflected in her eyes, and it felt like the world had been holding its breath for us. Eventually, I parked by the river. The air was cooler there, the sound of water soft in the distance. She turned to face me, her expression thoughtful, almost shy. "I wasn't expecting any of this," she said. "Neither was I admitted. "Honestly, I thought you'd never want to see me again." She smiled. "I didn't, at first. But then, I realized I couldn't stop thinking about you. And not just about that argument, about everything that came after. I felt something stir inside me, that warm ache that comes when you realize someone else has been carrying the same thoughts you've tried to hide." "Do you believe in second chances?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment, her gaze steady. "I believe in people who try to deserve them." That sentence lingered in the air like a promise. For a while, we just sat there, the world outside fading into the quiet hum of night. And then, as if drawn by the same invisible force, she leaned closer. I could feel her breath warm against my skin. The moment stretched, fragile and infinite, until our lips met again. This kiss was different. The first one had been a spark, sudden, surprising, beautiful. But this one was fire. It carried everything we hadn't said, every emotion we'd tried to hide. It was apology and forgiveness, longing and surrender, all tangled together in one breathless moment. Her fingers brushed against my face, tracing the line of my jaw, and I felt myself falling deeper into her. Every heartbeat seemed louder, every second slower. It was as if the universe had finally stopped rushing and decided to let us catch up. When we finally broke apart, she didn't pull away completely. Her forehead rested against mine, our breaths mixing in the cool air. "This is crazy," she whispered, half laughing. "I know," I said, "but I don't care." She smiled, that same small, quiet smile that had undone me from the beginning. "Neither do I." We stayed like that for a long time. Two people who shouldn't have worked, somehow fitting perfectly. The world could have ended right then, and I wouldn't have noticed. At some point, she rested her head on my shoulder, her hand still in mine. The radio played softly, a song about love and timing and impossible coincidences. I couldn't tell if the lyrics were real or just something my heart was making up, but it didn't matter. Every word felt like us. When I finally drove her home, dawn was starting to touch the horizon. The city was waking up as we were falling into something neither of us could name yet. Outside her house, we sat in silence for a while. She turned to me and smiled, tired but glowing. "You know," she said, "if someone had told me that day at the lottery that I'd end up here, I would have laughed in their face." I grinned. "Same here. I guess fate has a sense of humor." She reached out, touched my cheek gently. "Maybe it does." Then, before stepping out of the car, she leaned in and kissed me one last time, soft, slow, final, in the way that only beginnings can be. "Good night, caveman," she whispered with a grin. "Good night, angel," I replied, and as she walked toward her door, the morning light spilling over her shoulders, I realized that the past, all of it, had been nothing more than a long road leading to this moment. Because that kiss didn't just change the story, it erased it and started a new one. I barely slept that night. Not because I was restless, but because I didn't want the night to end. Even as I lay in bed, the scent of her perfume still lingered faintly on my shirt, the taste of her kiss still on my lips. Every detail of her, her laughter, her touch, The way she said my name softly like she'd been saying it her whole life kept replaying in my mind like a film that refused to fade. I had kissed women before, but never like that. Never with the feeling that the entire world had gone silent just to let that moment exist. It wasn't lust. It wasn't chance. It was something deeper, something that reached right into the quiet corners of me. The parts I didn't even know were still alive. The sky was pale gray when I finally drifted into sleep. And when I woke, sunlight was spilling through the curtains, warm and almost forgiving. The world felt different, brighter, slower, softer, like life itself had shifted a little overnight. I made coffee, sat by the window, and tried to process what had happened. Every sip carried her name somehow. Every sound outside, the city waking up, the hum of cars, the chatter of people, felt distant compared to the echo of her voice in my mind. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. Around mid-morning, my phone buzzed. My heart jumped before I even looked at the screen. Juliana. I hesitated for half a second, then opened the message. "Are you awake, caveman?" I laughed. Somehow, just seeing that nickname made everything feel real again. "Barely," I replied. "Didn't get much sleep. Too many thoughts. Good ones, I hope. The best." There was a pause, those few dots dancing on the screen that somehow felt more intimate than any word. Then she sent one last message. "Last night was something, wasn't it?" "It was everything," I wrote back. I thought about calling her, but something told me not to rush. There was a sweetness in the silence between messages, a tenderness in the waiting. Sometimes love needs a little space to settle in, to breathe before it speaks again. Still, the memory of her wouldn't leave me alone. Every part of that night replayed in color and sound, the dim light of the bar, the slow rhythm of the music, her laughter as soft as rain, the way she looked at me after the kiss. Not startled, not uncertain, but peaceful, as if she already knew we were exactly where we were supposed to be. That evening, unable to resist, I drove by her street. I didn't plan to stop. I just wanted to see the house, to remind myself that she was real. But when I saw her outside, standing on the front porch watering her plants, she noticed me before I could even think about turning away. She smiled. That smile, the same one that had undone me from the first time I saw it. "Well, if it isn't my stalker," she teased as I got out of the car. I laughed. "I swear, I was just passing by." "Of course you were," she said, eyes glinting with mischief. "Do you want to come in, just passing by?" "I thought you'd never ask." She led me inside. The house smelled faintly of coffee and lavender, simple, welcoming. I followed her to the kitchen where 2 mugs were already on the table, like she'd somehow expected me. "I was just making another pot," she said casually. "Guess you showed up at the right time." I sat down, watching her move around the kitchen with quiet grace. There was something almost sacred about the way she did simple things. Pouring coffee, humming softly under her breath, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "You didn't sleep much either, did you?" I asked. She looked up, smiling. "Not really. I kept thinking about how everything started between us, the shouting, the anger. And now this," I finished for her. "Yeah, life's funny, isn't it?" "Funny and merciful," I said softly. She sat down across from me. "You know, I thought you'd disappear after last night." "Disappear?" I frowned. She shrugged. "Most men would. It's easier that way, to keep something perfect by not touching it again." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I don't want perfect, Juliana. I just want real." Her fingers tightened around mine, and for a moment, the world stilled again, just like it had the night before. We talked for hours after that. About life, about how little control we actually have, about the strange way fate works, how a simple argument in a lottery line had somehow led us here, sitting across a table, hearts wide open. At one point, she leaned back, looking at me thoughtfully. "You know what scares me?" she said. What? That this might actually be something real, and if it is, I don't want to ruin it. I smiled gently. Then let's not. Let's take it slow. Let's let it be what it's meant to be. She nodded, her eyes softening. Deal. The evening light began to fade, and I didn't realize how long we'd been there until the street outside grew quiet. We moved to the porch, watching the sky turn shades of gold and violet. She rested her head on my shoulder, and I felt her sigh, that deep, contented kind of sigh that only comes when you stop fighting the moment. "Do you think this will last?" she asked quietly. I thought for a long moment. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I think some things are meant to happen, even if they don't last forever. They change you. They wake you up." She smiled against my shoulder. "Then maybe you were meant to wake me up. Maybe we were meant to wake each other." The world felt still again, like it had paused to listen. The air smelled of night and possibility. Before I left, she kissed me again. Soft, unhurried, the kind of kiss that doesn't promise forever, but still feels eternal. And as I walked to my car, I realized something simple and profound. Not every love story begins with perfection. Some begin with chaos, stubbornness, and mistakes. But the right person, the one who meets you halfway, can turn even the messiest beginning into something worth keeping. That morning after wasn't just a new day. It was the quiet beginning of something real. I barely slept that night. Not because I was restless, but because I didn't want the night to end. Even as I lay in bed, the scent of her perfume still lingered faintly on my shirt, the taste of her kiss still on my lips. Every detail of her laughter, her touch, the way she said my name softly like she'd been saying it her whole life, kept replaying in my mind like a film that refused to fade. I had kissed women before, but never like that.